Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.
World Day for Audiovisual Heritage, celebrated each year on October 27th, is a global initiative that highlights the importance of preserving audiovisual materials such as film, radio, and recorded sound as vital parts of our cultural memory. For Indigenous peoples, this day holds particular significance, as audiovisual records are powerful tools for safeguarding languages, oral traditions, ceremonies, and ancestral knowledge that are often under threat. These recordings not only document cultural heritage, but also serve as living bridges between generations, helping to revitalize Indigenous identities and empower communities to maintain control over how their stories are told and remembered. Now, Article 31 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People says, quote, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, as well as the manifestations of their sciences, technologies, and cultures, including human and genetic resources, seeds, medicines, knowledge of the properties of fauna and flora, oral traditions, literatures, designs, sports and traditional games, and visual and performing arts. They also have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their intellectual property over such cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions. End quote. In this podcast, we spoke to Donald Soctomah and Dwayne Tomah, two prominent Passamaquoddy historians and cultural preservationists, about a remarkable piece of history: wax cylinders containing some of the earliest audio recordings of the Passamaquoddy people dating back to 1890. Donald Soctomah, an author, tribal historic preservation officer, and former state legislator, has long worked to protect and revitalize Wabanaki culture and language. Dwayne Tomah, a fluent Passamaquoddy speaker and cultural educator, has played a key role in interpreting and restoring the meaning behind these ancient recordings. Together, they share the powerful story of how these voices, once thought lost to time, have been rediscovered, translated, and brought back to life, offering a rare and intimate window into the cultural resilience and enduring spirit of the Passamaquoddy people. We heard from Donald Soctomah first.
Good morning. I'm Donald Soctomah, a resident, community member, citizen of the Passamaquoddy tribe. I've been involved in history research for about 25 years. Previous to that, I served in the Maine legislature representing the Passamaquoddy tribe. And before that, I served as the forest director for the Passamaquoddy Forest. Yeah, this is a unique project. I heard about it when I was, back in, I think it was the 80s, I first heard about the wax cylinders. And cassette recordings were sent to the tribe and reviewed by some of our elders, and they were able to make out a few of the words because wax cylinders are really hard to understand at that time. And I think they were able to do 2, maybe 3 of the songs, transcribe them. And then eventually I met with Guhas in Washington at a ATLM meeting, and we started talking about the wax cylinders, and I told him I wanted to start a project on that, and he said, well, right now, there's new technology coming in that's going to enhance the voices on these wax cylinders. So I asked to be put on top of the list since we're the oldest Native American recordings. So he agreed, and we had some partners that came along during that time to help us. And after the redigitizing of the wax cylinders, I took it to a group of elders to have them listen to the wax cylinders. And a lot of the elders have a hard time hearing. A lot of them can't write the language. And I said, I've got to change this up. And Dwayne came to one of the meetings, and I said, he's the perfect one. He could hear good, he could speak the language, and he can write the language. So he was the youngest fluent speaker of the tribe. And ever since then, he's been on board for the last, I can't remember how many years it's been, 5 or 6 years. And he's been taking the lead on that. And I've been off doing other things.
Dwayne Tomah then introduced himself and told us about how he got involved in this project.
Sure. My name is Dwayne Tomah from the Passamaquoddy tribe. I've been involved in language most of my life, all my life. I grew up listening to the language, hearing the language, being able to speak the language, is surrounded by it. I also taught the language in the school systems. And I've also been involved in language revitalization all my life, sharing songs and stories of our people. When I got to school, I learned that you could actually write all these things down, and I was really amazed by how I was able to write the language. So I was really gravitated to reading and writing the language, and I really mastered the system. And so I was able to understand it. And so I started teaching also in the school system. And then I also learned of these wax cylinders when they were on cassettes. But like Donna was saying, the audio was very, very scratchy and wasn't very clear. But these wax cylinders sat on the shelves for 134 years. And because of Donald's efforts and making these things happen, and because everybody plays a role in being able to bring things forward, and he played a major role in bringing these to the tribe's attention, as well as the organizations and institutions' attention, how much they needed to be released and to be able to have some kind of exclusive authority over this intellectual property. So when I first laid my ears on these cylinders, I literally wept, because I knew exactly what they were saying. And I could hear the songs, and I started, doing more research, and doing, a lot of asking a lot of questions with Donald and other people, regarding these cylinders, and really getting a deeper understanding of, what we actually had. And so what I did was I started taking them out to the community, to all the drum groups, all the different places in the school systems, in institutions, everywhere, sharing this knowledge, because it was taken from our people systematically. So it was really important for me to be able to expose not only the wax cylinders, but also the processes and the systems that are in place that are prohibiting us from accessing our intellectual property, because that's all part of the extermination policies and policies that were put in place to exterminate our people. And I wanted to be able to build relationships with these institutions to be able to get them to understand the importance of this work.
we asked Dwayne Tomah to take us back and tell us how the recordings were done in 1890.
Yeah, well, there's a gentleman by the name of Jesse Walter Fuchs who came to Calais, Maine, was invited by Mary Hemingway, and also an Indian agent by the name of Wallace Brown and Helen Brown. So he came here with Thomas Edison's wax cylinder machine to record our people. And then Jesse Walter Fuchs, had exclusive authority over all this intellectual property. And then it got in the hands of Peabody, Massachusetts, and then was able to, Donald would probably know a little bit more about the ins and details, but this is what I know about the process, in which is American Folklife Center also got involved, and then the Library of Congress got involved. And so we started collaborating and working together. And that we also went to the archives together, me and Donald, and also, just building this relationship and really getting an understanding of this intellectual property. And then when I put my ears on these cylinders, I realized that, we had old ceremonies, we had songs that I had not heard before, but there were other elders in the community that said that these were songs that they had heard before. So it just told me about a timeline and how things are dissipating, because I was constantly surrounded by my elders. I'm 60, so that knowledge from 60 on was really not being used at that time. So it just kind of gave me a good idea of how this knowledge is dissipating at such an alarming rate. So I wanted to be able to bring those songs and stories and ceremonies back to our people. So a lot of them are hunting stories. A lot of them are war stories, death songs, greeting songs, gathering songs, like the snake dance song. There are a lot of different contexts, and also teaching ways of how our people view the world.
Donald Soctomah gave us more technical details of how the cylinders worked.
Okay, the wax cylinder is about 6 inches long, and it's pure wax made in like a cylinder, and it's hollow in the center. And that's put onto one of Thomas Edison's recording devices, and the person speaks into the microphone, which is shaped like a sort of like a horn, and the vibrations from the voice is replicated on the pieces of wax. And so they're real delicate. And there were over 31 cylinders made, and each cylinder can hold up to 2 to close to 3 minutes of material. So what I've noticed on the cylinders, as it starts off, Jesse Walter Fuchs will say his name, the date, where he's located, and he'll say, he doesn't really say, not on all the cylinders, a person's name, but he does a few times. So he recorded 3 Passamaquoddy men, and they were the wisdom keepers of that time period, 1890. And the recording that really stands out to me is the trading song. The trading song, that's how we survived, our ancestors survived, is trading with other tribes. So we traded what we needed for ceremonies if we didn't have it in our homeland. We traded food, we traded fisheries, that was a big part of the culture.
To conclude our interview, we asked Donald to explain how these very delicate wax recordings are preserved today and also how the digitization process took place.
Okay, the voices are on wax and it has to be kept at a certain temperature. It can't be touched with the fingers because an imprint can mess up the lines. It's almost like a vinyl record in a way, but it's more delicate. And when they first played them, well, they told me they tried to limit the times that they played the wax cylinder, because every time they play it, it takes a little bit away from the recording. So the first time they did it was around in the mid 80s, and they transferred that to cassette. So I think that was very, it wasn't too complicated. They had a cassette player and they had the wax cylinder. And then through the next 10 years with everything getting digitized, and then the recording was redone when this new computer program was developed to take the background noise, the scratches that you hear on the wax cylinders, to limit that. It didn't completely take them away. It limited the scratching noise, but you still can hear it. And it went into the computer, and they were able to send us digital formatted recordings, and then they sent us, we had some CD recordings, but we mostly use a digital format now. And from there, the cylinders are stored in a warehouse in Maryland where the temperature is kept constant. When me and Dwayne entered the storage facility, this is huge. I think it's where most of the delicate Smithsonian material are put, because there's thousands and thousands of wax cylinders from almost, I think, a couple hundred tribes. And when we got there, we were taken and shown the process. We met the engineers, and they went through the process and told us how they do it. And they were very excited, almost as excited as we were, but we had more invested in it. They were excited because of the technology that was being developed, and they were the first to do it. So for us, we were the first to hear it.
Next song and description by Newell Joseph of the Passamaquoddy tribe in Palace, Maine, March the 18th, 1890. Hello, get to walk out to that old nothing west out there. That one get away. Where did this stuff? I just be quiet. And was on it, get to walk out to that whole long journey to all that. No, I wait for Stephen. No, now, see what my name is. No, say what I wait. If you are wait for Stephen, it takes his heart with him, drive off. Hell in the garden, while the mock here was still in the garden, and the mother gave 40, and this piggy 40 eggs. Now, I don't think this smoke on it. Sit up with that seven, this smoke is walk. Oh, yeah, where ho ya ne, where ho ya ne, where ho. Yo ne ho, yo ne ho, yo ne
As we recognize World Day for Audiovisual Heritage, it is essential to acknowledge the critical role that audiovisual preservation plays in protecting and promoting Indigenous cultures. These archives are more than historical records. They are living testaments to identity, resilience, and connection to land and language. By supporting the preservation and accessibility of Indigenous audiovisual materials, we help ensure that future generations can hear the voices of their ancestors, reclaim traditional knowledge, and tell their own stories on their own terms. In doing so, we not only honor the past, but we also contribute to a more inclusive and respectful cultural future. For more on the rights of Indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook and X.